service. God bless this great nation, state of Tennessee, Putnam County, this honorable commission. Mr. Chairman, I find the premises to be in order.
Thank you, Lieutenant. At this time, District 5 will be doing the invocation and the pledge.
Our invocation will be by Mr. Josh Hale, who is the youth minister at First Christian Church on Fairground Street here in Cookville.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for today. You are holy and almighty, the creator of the universe, and we thank you for just blessing us with another day of life. And we thank you for the wonderful weather that you've blessed us with the last few days. Right now, I just want to take this time and lift up these commissioners to you. Thank you for their acceptance of this role of leadership in this community. I pray that they will look to you for guidance and direction as they make choices that will affect Putnam County and those living within the county lines. Use them, Lord, to make this community even better to live in. Lord, I ask that you send down a spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice on these commissioners standing in front of me. Watch over this meeting tonight, Lord, and allow the decisions to glorify you. It's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll take your handsets, everybody press yes and stop right there for me, please. Press yes only and stop right there. Everybody press yes and stop right there. Let's see, is Mr. Martin not going to be here tonight? Okay, may I have, will somebody hand me his... All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please press confirm for me, please. Everybody press confirm for me. Mr. Chairman, you have 23 present. You have 1 absent. There is a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. To have a motion for approval of the agenda. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes of previous meeting.
A motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unfinished business and action thereon by the board. Report of standing committees. Planning Committee,
No unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Fiscal Review Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item for discussion. Discuss previous recommendation for Fiscal Review Committee to postpone applying for a community development block grant for 1 year.
Mr. Porter.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a lot of discussion over the grant for the fire truck. When I originally brought it to you back in the fall of last year, you approved for us to apply for the grant. Then we brought the resolution back at last month's meeting. Then there was motions to not approve for it. So I tried to put together something. I did your presentation, which was put together quickly because all the county departments are working on a 5-year plan right now. We hope to have the first draft of that. Well, actually, they have created their own first draft. We're putting those together into a combined first draft to start working on, and hope to have that completed by this summer to present to the county commission during budget time. there's been some emails flying around between, you know, folks talking and things about it, so, I thought I would address, what my recommendation is for you to do. It's ultimately up to the commission. Right now, there's $150,000 in the budget, in the fire budget, to build a fire building for Brotherton. I feel like, and Chief Blair agrees, that we have enough money to probably build 3 buildings. So we build a building at Brotherton, we build a building at Dry Valley, and then the next most important one as far as getting the truck replacement, the third one. That way, if you get the grant, the only match you have is the fire truck. I do believe that with, especially in debt service, if we need to do a capital outlay note or whatever for a year or two, there's money there to match the grant. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. Part of the, I know the building was a problem with some of you having to worry about that. That takes care of the buildings for the next 2 grant cycles. It's gonna be a couple of years before we know if we get the grant, and then if we are gonna have to fund it for the first one. My 5-year plan is simple. It's doing those 3 buildings. It's applying for the grants every year. In my mind, with a $325,000 fire truck, if we can get it for $65,000, knowing that we're gonna have to replace these fire trucks at some point in time, if we're gonna stay in the fire business, which is ultimately up to you, we're gonna have to have them. So I think that's the best deal. What I really need is some time. The county commission appointed a fire committee, and Darrell, you may remember the year, but it's been there for a long time. They've had meetings, they've worked out plans, and currently, after the election, there may be 1 or 2, probably 2 of y'all that's still left on the committee, that's still on the commission. And so you'd have to reappoint some more members if you want that fire committee to continue. What I like to do is, give me a few months, go ahead and apply for the grant. Let's go ahead and building those buildings out of this year's budget, all 3 of them. Give me time to meet with the cities along with Darrell to see what we can work out with this automatic aid. We have an automatic aid, and I'm not trying to take credit for that. That was Darrell and other folks prior to my time with Baxter, that they respond out so far out into the county. If they have a structure fire, county responds with Baxter inside the city if they have a structure fire. It's working together. I'd like to approach the other cities about doing something similar to that, and see if they'd be interested. In the past, we basically, with all volunteers, didn't have a whole lot to offer. Now, with some full-time people that are on duty 24/7, now we have something to offer in bringing trucks and men and equipment to the scene should the cities need our help. So that's my plan, that's my recommendation to you is let's apply for the grant. We're running out of time. Build the buildings. Let us finish this 5-year plan. Bring it to you, and then we'll go from there if it alters from what I've got here, but that at least gets us by for the next few months until we can get that plan back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and apply for the grant. That's over. I second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Without belaboring the points that I think we've made several times, Randy, I think it's great that we're planning, and I don't mean to take away from any planning that's taking place in whatever we do for the county. But we really have a problem with the insurance in the county, and how we're going to rectify that over a 20-year period without having the funds to fund it is what really concerns me. So I'm all for it. I don't think a plan is bad, but certainly without something that starts to give relief to some of the insurance issues that are out there, have we really accomplished anything except spent money? So that's my point, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Reel.
Yes, Randy, I guess this is probably for you. When we budgeted in the budget committee, it was for $500,000, $150 for a building and $350 for a truck, which was supposed to go to Brotherton. Now, I'd like to know where we are in steps of what we're doing. Has the bid been put out for the truck for Brotherton?
Truck's already been ordered.
And where are we gonna put it?
Well, the one thing we're looking at now at Brotherton, in the past, you've been putting those buildings on this, where we had county property. It's at the Brotherton Community Center right now. Well, that's not gonna cover your heaviest populated area down around White Plains. So what we're trying to do is look for some land a little closer, that wherever we put the truck, it drops those insurance ratings to the Class 9 for the largest group of the population. Darrell, actually, we've looked at 5 or 6 parcels of land on Buck Mountain Road, and are continuing to do that, meeting with the homeowners there to see if they'd be willing to donate a small parcel of land to put the truck on, or in worst case scenario, pay a small amount to be able to move it down, because it's gonna be worth a lot of money to get it closer to the White Plains area for the residents that live in that area.
Okay, so, and before, the budgeted $150,000 was for the building, so what kind of building are we talking about now if we split the budget and build 3 buildings? And the truck that you're put the bid out for, will these buildings be, I mean, big enough and everything for this truck that will cover it?
We're looking at something similar, and Darrell, you may want to answer part of this, that something similar to what we have in Bowman. It'd be about a 40 by 50 building. It'd have 2 bays, room for storage. It'd have a small crew quarter-like office with a bathroom, and probably a little small, maybe kitchenette or something if the guys happen to stay there, you know, during the day if it's bad weather, or overnight if they had to, with enough room that if we ever go to man stations, we never afford to go to man stations out in the county in the future years, that you could add on the bedrooms to the building for a small nominal cost.
And I have one other question. Timeline. What are we doing now, where we've had 3 or 4 months? Have we done anything? You said you're looking for property now, so what are we supposed to tell the people in our district that this has been budgeted for, and when do they expect to have this in their district?
I only took office September 1st. We've been working on it. My goal was, it's not to go stick that fire truck up at Brotherton, at the community center, and us have all those folks down around White Plains, that's highly populated area, not be covered under it. I think that would be a bad decision if we have, even if we have to lay it 6 months or whatever. So my thing is, we've been working on this for the last 2 or 3 months. We had Kevin Rush, our planner, go through and pull out and do a study as to how far did we have to come back down Buck Mountain Road to be able to include that White Plains area. It's not by the way the crow flies, it's by the way the roads go as to how that 5 miles is calculated. So we're working on it. I don't think there's any doubt, if everything works right, that we would have the Brotherton building and the other buildings built before the end of this budget year, which we're already almost into February, and we gotta wait for the weather to clear to do a whole lot anyway. So I think they'll be done by the end of the budget year. Darrell, do you?
Yes,
Thank you.
Commissioner Real, for the past couple of months, I've been riding up and down Buck Mountain Road, talking to people. Kind of felt like a real estate agent. But, Mr. Rush at the planning department, he run some numbers for us and stuff. A lot of these places he come up with, they was just there. They would not work. Right now, we're working on with a property owner that is very interested, and it was one of the spots we're looking at. So there you go. So as Randy was saying, we're wanting to make sure this is in the right spot, not just throw it out there. The rating will not change until the truck gets there. You can put the buildings, but the rate will not change till the truck gets there. But it's gonna be a nice building, it's gonna be something the community is gonna be proud of. Commissioner Adams.
Yes, I did have a question for Randy, but I think you may have answered it. It's too late to change the money that was allocated for the truck.
Right.
Since we can change the money that was allocated for the buildings, it seemed to me that it would have made more sense for that $350,000 to be allocated to be used as matching funds over the next several trucks that we get with grants rather than buying it outright. But you're telling me it's too late to do that, correct?
Well, the commission would have had to have went back and reversed the other commission's decision on the way you passed the budget.
Which we're doing on the buildings, I assume, right?
Only thing you're doing on the buildings is you're not, the money was put into the line item to build buildings. Where you build 1 or 3 would be actually up to myself and the fire chief really after the budget is passed. But because of my promise to you to bring you all the information so that you're well versed on what's going on, it's coming back to you to bless it, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for all your work. I do have a comment to make that doesn't, I am feeling compelled to vote against applying for this grant for a few reasons, and I wanted to explain just one of them. I have been talking to hundreds of people in my district for the past year, and over again, I got one request, and that was, please don't raise my taxes. So, in order for me to honor that request, I am just dead set on trying to cut our spending, because as we know, this year's budget is already in the red, and even though that concerns me, that doesn't concern me near as much as the $200+ million of debt that's hanging over our heads that has to be paid off. And whether it's being managed or not doesn't matter, because obviously we're going to have to do something in the next 20 years as far as building schools or something. I also know that we have a school that's in need of a new roof that's going to be coming before us. I wish that I could say yes to every single request for money that comes, because I believe every one of them is a legitimate request. I have great respect for all of our department heads. I think they're all doing their best to keep spending down. But to honor my constituents, I have got to say no to this. Thank you.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, as those of you may know, I did vote to apply for this grant when the original vote was taken back in October. I still believe this is a good grant, and it does help with some needs that we may have some now and will have also coming up in the next few years. But I've also done a little bit more research and consideration before our meeting here tonight. Cindy has hit some of those concerns that I really have in my heart here as well. The reality is that, just as we said a moment ago, the previous commission did write $4.3 million in new checks. We are in that red, and most of that, from what we understand, a lot of it is recurring. I don't believe this is sustainable. While I fall on the optimistic side, and I believe it won't be as bad as what it looks like on paper, the reality is we have to be good stewards now in order to be able to make sure that we come on this optimistic side. Our citizens sent us here to be good stewards. I know it seems sometimes that debt and deficits does not seem like a big deal to some, but it really is a big deal, and as you know, I'm pretty young, and for our generation, it really is a big deal. I mean, we're the ones that's going to be footing the bill. I know Washington is running incredible debt and deficits, and we're nowhere close to that, but these things do start small. And as Cindy also mentioned too, I've been talking the last couple of weeks, I've been discussing it with a number of constituents. I represent a district inside the city limits. We're covered by fire, so I've had to go out and discuss with people out in the county to try to get a sense for what folks are seeing in the county. And when I described to them what our situation is, a lot of them had said, please be hesitant on this grant. We think it's a good grant, we need safety. But they said they would hesitate till they get a better sense of where we're at coming up here with our budget later in the year as well. And so I said I've been discussing that with many of those folks. I don't believe anyone wants to see a tax increase in August. I'm committed to not raise taxes. That's something that I promised my constituents. I'd be fiscally responsible. And I want to uphold that pledge and that promise I made to my constituents. Now, I do want to thank Mr. Porter for his work on this 5-year plan, and also Mr. Blair as well. I know they've been working on this 5-year plan, and I think we've got a good framework here. I've been looking over it, and I've been doing a little bit of research on that. I think it's a good plan. But that being said, I do want to see a more well-developed plan in place before we accept the grant, because I understand we had some concern and some talk about maybe building new buildings. And I don't think we're good stewards of money if we get this money for a grant, maybe 3 years, have to tear that building down and replace it with another building if it comes to that. We're still, I know, just overlooking these plans, but in a few years, if it does come to where we have to build a new building down the road, I'd rather not see that grant money waste. I want to get the most out of this grant, because, I mean, it's a good-sized grant, and I think it's going to be a good one, but I think we need to try to get a long-range plan going. And so with this, with these two reasons I've outlined, I'm going to have to say that I'm going to cast my vote to postpone this application for just 1 year. Public safety is important to me. I don't want my vote to be construed in any way as anything against public safety, and I want, as I said before, I want this grant to be maximized to its full potential, so that's why I feel confident in vote. It's a tough vote for me. I've had to make a lot of decisions onto this. I've looked at pros and cons of both sides, but as far as this goes, I really feel, my conscience convicts me to try to vote to postpone this grant for another year, and just mostly out of an act to be fiscally responsible, as I promised my constituents I would be. I didn't want to take up too much time, but I just wanted to put a defense up there for why I'm going to vote the way I feel compelled to vote there.
Commissioner Williams.
Actually, I came in here today, I was kind of expecting to vote yes on the grant, because I mean, I've been mulling it over and I've read the fire study. I've got the fire study we did from 2012 through CTOS. And then I have two agents, insurance agents in my district, Farm Bureau and State Farm, called them up and they said, if you go out and sell this grant that you're going to put a fire truck here, that you're going to drop people from a 10 to a 9, he goes, you're going to get as many bad phone calls as I will. He said, because, and this was from Farm Bureau, he said, we already give everyone a 9 in that area. They don't do a 10, and State Farm said the same thing. And between the two of them, they both agreed that they cover about 90% of the people in that area. So 90% of the people are not going to get a rating because they're already getting a 9. So if we're doing it just to save some people some money, that's not going to happen, and they're going to be mad at us for spending the money to save them money that they're already getting the discount. And from what I read from the fire study, there's more to it than just the truck. I mean, you have the truck, your distance to a fire hydrant, and then there's also some ongoing training for the firemen that Daryl, I think there's so many hours that each type of fireman has to have. And the way I understand it is you actually have to apply, I guess, to the ISO to have them change our rating. They don't just automatically do it. I guess we have to apply and prove that we've done the steps that it takes to drop the rating. But like I said, in my opinion, I mean, just adding a truck, and in the fire study too, it says that volunteerism was one of the biggest problems we have. So we can put as many trucks there as we want to, but if we don't have anybody to drive them, they're just going to sit there. And if we're already getting the discount, but I don't see the reason to spend the money on a truck that's going to get there last anyway, if we don't have the volunteers to go down there and drive it. So, I mean, there's a lot of concerns, and like I said, I know, we're up to our eyeballs in debt, and I just don't know that this is going to help us any, and I don't know that it's going to help any. I know I have the concerns on the Pfeiffer Mountain that those people have access to water issues, and if we go at it at that angle that they need a truck up there, I'd have more ammunition, I guess, to vote for it. But if all we're trying to do is save money, and the insurance guys are telling me now they're already getting that discount, I don't see any reason to vote for it.
Commissioner Savage.
Where's your third location for the
Silver Point, wasn't it? Yes, sir.
I talked to both those companies too, and I'm not disputing. Farm Bureau doesn't have a 10. Their lowest rating is a 9. I have Farm Bureau insurance. I live out north where we've got a truck, and my rating is a lot lower than a 9. I think what they start looking at is dropping that rating even lower than a 9 if the truck and the building and fire hydrants and all that stuff is there. So I think there will be some folks that their insurance probably will drop. State Farm doesn't use the ISO rating. It's totally based on them looking at the house and all. They wouldn't actually tell me exactly what all they look at. I question them on that. But all of the other insurance companies that I talk to do use the ISO rating. So my worst case scenario is, and this is that you don't apply for the grant. We have a big fire somewhere in that end of the county. Your phone is ringing off the wall, and all of a sudden we're coming back to county commission in panic mode, and we're ordering a new fire truck for $325,000 and we're paying for it. That's my worst case scenario, that I don't want to see us operate in panic mode when it comes to the county commission, but us try to plan ahead. Pretty soon, those old pumpers that are the one that's at Brotherton, I mean, it's pretty well gone now. It's not worth a whole lot. Pretty soon there's not going to be a fire truck up there. I don't know what that's going to do to well, you know what's gonna do the response. I mean, there's gonna be, fires that it's gonna take longer to get to. I'm just trying to give you all the options of what's out there, and ultimately, it's up to y'all to vote for whether you want this grant or not. I headed in the direction of us applying for the grant if you approved it, and then now it seems like we're headed in the other direction. I just need some direction on what y'all wanna do tonight, either apply for it or not, and I'm good with either way, whatever y'all decide.
Is you through, Commissioner Savage? Okay. Commissioner Medley?
Mr. Porter, I just got one question for you. The $150,000 for the firehouses, was that not approved in last year's budget?
It was.
So the money's done there to build
It
the
is.
buildings? Okay. Second of all, State Farm does theirs by your zip code. Me, I'm not one of the people that's actually for this because I have State Farm insurance and they've done told me that, it doesn't really matter where it's at, my insurance is not going down. It's just that simple. But, on the other hand, you got $150,000 to build these buildings, and you're looking at, applying for a grant, which you didn't get it last time, and it's $300 and something thousand versus $65,000, I think is it $65,000 to match it? So you're basically getting an opportunity to get $300,000 for $65,000, whether you get it or not. As far as the money to build the 3 buildings, that was already passed through last year's budget. Now, you know, that's up to everybody to vote how they want, but the deal is, you've got an opportunity to get more money for less money if you actually get it. And whether you use it for a fire truck, which is a good idea, like he said, to replace, but, you know, that's up to you. But the whole point is, you're not necessarily getting this grant because we didn't get it last time.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that we'll get the grant.
Commissioner Rogers?
Mr. Porter, this money will come out of fiscal year 16-17, correct?
That's correct.
And at that time, we can decide if we want to take it out of debt service or general fund.
That's correct.
We can take it out of debt service by doing a 1-year capital outlay note.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Atwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been an interesting debate, and I appreciate so much all the comments that have been made, and I guess I'm entitled to my thoughts as well, so I'll offer those. Certainly, when I was elected several years ago to this office, I also promised the people and continue to promise the people that I would be physically conservative. I guess the meaning or definition of what that is probably personal for each one of us. To me, I think this is physically conservative. And I allude to what Mike just said, when you can get over $300,000 of worth for $65,000, to me that's physically conservative. It makes sense to me. But the real question is, what is the responsibility of this commission to supply fire protection to the county? I mean, that's the issue. And as it relates to that, I appreciate the fact that Brotherton that District 12 has been selected to receive the next one. I'm proud that the people there will be served in fire protection, and I think you commissioners who don't have it now might want to consider that if you can improve, whether the dollars go down to the people or not, they're going to have fire protection, and I think that's maybe a mandate or an important thing for this commission. We supply them with police protection. I don't think any of us would even consider not offering that to them. And I think personally that it is a responsibility for us to supply at least some fire protection. It's not important to you until it's your house that's on fire, then it's pretty important. So I just ask you that you consider the fact that these grants are offered to benefit us, and they cost us very little to achieve a great gain. So I'm going to support this, and I encourage the rest of you to think about it. Thanks.
Commissioner Short?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, first of all, that last year's $350,000 that we're putting into a fire department, that's a desperate decision that we made. And Randy, as far as the worst-case scenario, I think the worst-case scenario would be if we were to be awarded the grant and not have the funds to actually pull the trigger on it, for whatever reason. So, you know, I think our biggest problem is that we're in a position now where we're giving partial protection. And partial protection is worse than no protection at all. Because what happens is, if it's your house, and they come to, what's gonna happen is they're gonna be here in 30 minutes or 20 minutes, wherever we are now, right, 18, 19 minutes. That,
We're at 12.
12, that structure is still gonna suffer from whatever damage can be done in those minutes before they get to your particular house. And are you better off with a house that's partially burned down, or, you know, insurance-wise, you'd be better off ahead to let the thing go at that point? I mean, and that's really a death wish. I'm not wishing that on anybody. And I'm not trying to be funny here. But we have to come up with a solution that's really going to serve the entire community. And I don't think this is it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Talked a lot about Brotherton. This grant is not being applied for Brotherton. The truck that we've got in the budget is going to Brotherton. This grant is being applied for the Dry Valley, Pfeiffer Mountain area. So I just want to make sure that everybody understood that we're not applying for Brotherton. It's Dry Valley and Pfeiffer Mountain.
Commissioner Bennett.
You know, I would sit here and listen, and I hear what everybody's saying, and I partially agree. But my bottom line is what's already been said. You know, I'm thinking about these people out there that live out in boondocks in a fire hydrant 20 miles, and I would hope that someone would bring some water to my house if it was on fire. You know. And I know all this other stuff, you know, we talk about, but bottom line is public and their safety and what we can do for them. Money's always going to be an issue on everything we do around here. But I'm looking at the persons, I'm looking at the people. I'm for it. I'm all for it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Well, I'd like to say something, being your fire chief. I've sat here and I've listened to a lot of stuff. Been going through this now, past 4 years, for, I guess they say fire is hot. This has been a hot topic. Everybody's got their own decision to make. I've heard a lot of different things here. We've beat this horse to death over the past 3 or 4 years. We know we have got a problem with fire protection. Me and Randy's working on a plan right now, and this will make about the 4th or 5th plan that we've come up with. But this is the first one me and him's got to work on. These people deserve protection out there. But if y'all don't want to do this, let's put the horse to rest. Or let's put the bridle on it and let's go. I live in a county. Just like somebody said a while ago, if I call for the sheriff's department, I expect them to respond. I want them there quick. If I call for EMS, I expect them there quick. If I call for the fire department, I expect them there quick. And until you've been through a loss with fire, you have no idea what it's all about. Let's forget about ISO. Everybody knows insurance companies don't all play by the same game. That's not my fault. That's not your fault. This is about safety, and you can put that in the paper that I said that. This is about safety. Not just for the men and women on this department, but for the citizens out there. Now, if you want to vote against it, that's strictly up to you. If you want to vote for it, strictly up to you. But now we've got to do something, because every time the fire subject comes up, there's always ands and ifs brought on to us. If we're going to quit spending money, let's don't just quit on the fire department. Let's quit on everything. Let's don't rob Peter and pay Paul. Any other discussion? Commissioner Ebersol.
I appreciate your comments there, Chief, and, but is it not, do we not have fire protection out there now?
You've got some.
Okay, so there is fire protection out there, and I understand that we want to upgrade the equipment and all of that, and that's, I mean, but the thing is Commissioner Adams brought up, you know, we've got there's priorities in this county that is gonna take money. We spent a whole bunch of money in the last budget that we don't have, that's not coming in. And I think what we need to do is, yeah, I mean, we have fire protection out there, correct?
You got some.
Okay, and, but what are the priorities of the county? Where, you know, we've got to fix a roof in the schools, you know, what other issues are out there? And what I'm concerned about is the fact that, you know, grants are great, they really are. But if you're getting money just to get money, what good does it do us? That's my point. And I have a question about this plan. It's my understanding that we cannot apply for CDBG grants every year for this. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so then basically if in year 2 of this, if we have a CDB grant open, we can't apply for one in year 3. Okay. Can the FEMA be done every year? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The last time we got the FEMA grant, I believe, was in 2003. We got right at $500,000. We ain't got it since.
But I go back to my point is, yeah, that should be part of a master plan to upgrade the entire fire system. But we do have fire protection out there. There's a truck up there right now, and that's a fact. And so I appreciate the comments of everybody here. You know, and the thing is, you know, until we get a firm grasp on how this last budget that we put on this county shakes out, I just would prefer us to take a look at it, prioritize the things around the county that need to be fixed. Commissioner Duncan said that what we should have done, one of his last comments as he left, was we should have been taking that money and looking over the maintenance that had been neglected in this county over the past several years. And that's my point. We need to prioritize where we spend our money. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
I just want to kind of follow up on what Scott said, but, and I appreciate, I rode with Darrell one day, Cindy and Jordan and I did, we rode, and there are some trucks that are in pretty bad shape. I mean, they are in bad shape. But like Scott said, I mean, we are providing services in those areas with the trucks that we have, and I know we'd like to replace them. I mean, there's obviously a need, and I just look back at that $350,000 from last year. How many grants could we have gotten with that money instead of spending it all on one truck that we may or may not need? I mean, I know we need to replace them, but if that $300,000 was split over 4 grants, and that's nearly 5 trucks you could have bought with that same amount of money instead of stinking it all in one truck. I mean, and you know, had we not done that, I might be okay with this grant. But right now, our budget is so far in the negative. I can't see spending the money that we don't know if we're going to have yet. So that's just where I'm at.
Any other discussion? Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Please restate the motion.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll take your handsets, if you favor the motion, pardon?
Please restate the motion.
Okay. Look under this physical review A, discuss previous recommendation. Mr. Medley made the motion, Mr. Honeycutt second, to approve applying for the grant. That's what I have. All right? So if you vote yes, you vote to approve applying for the grant. If you vote no, you do not wish to apply. So everyone understand? If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor that motion, vote no. Everyone please vote and stop right there for me before you confirm. Please don't confirm until we get everybody's vote in. Now, all votes are in. Does anyone, anywhere, wish to change their vote anywhere? Now, would you please press confirm for me, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much. Everybody press confirm. Mr. Chairman, you have 16 voting yes, 7 no, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any other thing from fiscal review? Nominate committee.
No unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Report of special committees. Hear a report from the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rules Committee met, and I think everybody's got a handout on the front of them. The Rules Committee met on the 15th of December. We had a couple of rules changes that came before us that we felt like needed to be brought in front of the commission. The first one is tabling the motion, and a lot of you weren't here in the past, but we've had some problems with, especially at budget time, with people tabling the motion being made. And so we're asking that, the Rules Committee's asking that the tabling motion be changed, that 2/3 vote before you can table the motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
And they have to be in writing to the commission 30 days before you take action on it. So the recommendations are great, but you have to wait till next month to vote on it.
I believe that is correct.
So I will make a motion that we put these off for 30 days and come back and vote on them. If anybody has any questions about them, see any of the committee members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other unfinished business. New business and action thereon by the board. Report of standing committees. Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A recommends the speed limit for Post Oak Road be set at 35 miles per hour. It's presently unmarked, which makes it at 55, and I so move.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B recommends to change the name of a portion of Mine Lick Creek Road to Academy Road, which runs from the city limits of Cookville to Baxter Road, and I so move. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries.
That concludes planning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fiscal Review Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A recommends approval of the budget amendments to the county general fund in the amount of $39,893, and I also move.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Savage.
This money is for, changing the bonds that we're issuing for different county officials. The costs.
Yes, sir. The TCA statute changed on the amount that was required of some of the elected officials, the trustee being the largest. And that was not figured into the budget. And so that's moving the money into the budget to pay for those extra bonds. The good thing is that the bonds are for 4 years. So we only have to do it this year and we won't have to do it again until the next election.
My question is, this return expense.
Just once every 4 years.
And we're getting, so everybody knows, we're taking the money from fund balance. So that was all comments I had. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you take your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. Stop right there for me, please. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Now, please press confirm for me, if you would. Please, everybody, press confirm. Everybody, thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have 22 voting yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Motion carries. Hang on just a second, Mr. Rogers. All right. Thank you, sir.
Item B recommends approval of budget amendments to the general purpose school fund, and I also move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you favor the motion, take your handsets and vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. Stop right there for me. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, would you please press confirm for me now, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody press confirm. Everybody press confirm. Mr. Ford, there you go. Mr. Chairman, we have 23 voting yes, zero no, one absent. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Broderick.
Item C, recommends approval for the Sheriff's Department to seek a grant from VEC in the amount of $1,500 with no matching requirement. And I so move.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please take your handsets and vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere, please press confirm for me now, if you would, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody, press confirm. All right. Mr. Chairman, 23 voting yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Motion carries.
That's all the business we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nominating Committee.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Nominating Committee recommends that the following be appointed to the Agriculture Extension Committee for a 2-year term to expire January 2014. There was some confusion concerning one of the nominees who did not meet some criteria. If you have any questions about that, we'll be happy to answer those. But the nominees from nominating will be Angie Glasscock, Alton Freeman, and Ben Rogers. And I so move.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes nominating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report of special committees. Resolutions.
There are no resolutions, Mr. Chairman.
Election of notaries.
Election of notaries, Deborah L. Adams, William D. Birdwell, Michael T. Buckner, Larry B. Garrett, Robin Hartbarker, Latona R. Matlock, James Patterson, Gail Paul, Tiffany Phillips, Misty C. Powers, Lindsay Sasser, Sam T. Warren, Sarah Williams.
So move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? You got a roll call.
We have to roll call these, we do. So if you please take your handsets, ladies and gentlemen. In favor of the motion, vote yes. We always have to vote on the election of notaries. All right, all votes in. Anyone wish to change anywhere? Now please press confirm for me, if you would, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody press confirm. Thank you so much. 23 voting for, 0 against, 1 absent. Motion carries, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all so much.
Other new business, ratification of County Executive Randy Porter's selection for the Budget Committee as follows: Jordan Awazan, Kim Bradford, Jim Martin, Mike Atwood, Chris Savage, Ben Rogers, Scott Ebersole, Cindy Adams, Donnie Bertram. Have a motion. Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Porter?
Mr. Chairman, I get a copy of the budget calendar was put into your packet, and on the budget committee, I had 11 people that asked to serve. We could only have 9 on the committee, and only wanted to have 1 from each district, so I apologize to the 2 that wasn't put on it, but everybody's welcome to come to the budget committee meetings. The whole commission can come as far as, and that'd be great, because this will be an education. For me, it's my first budget as county exec. Of course, I've been doing budget for 30 years as department head, but I tried to put together a calendar. There were some recommendations made by the county commission a year or 2 ago, and I looked over those, and my goal is for me to get my feet real good and wet in this year's upcoming budget. Let's pass it in August. And then next year, try to look towards try to have a budget that's passed and ready to go for July 1st. That's something the Comptroller's Office is going to be pushing us to do, all the counties to do. It's something that all the cities and a lot of places do already. We may not be able to do it. We may wind up voting on it in July, but I'd like to get one passed, get through one, and then we'd look at that for the following year. We're being aggressive on, or I'm being aggressive with the department heads on this budget. I'm looking at having the department heads have their draft budget turned into me at the end of February. It's usually end of April on down into May before we turn them in. I want to start working with the department heads during the month of March, going over the request, and coming up with a list of all the items that they're going to be asked in addition to what's already in the budget. You're going to see something different than maybe you've seen, well, for some of you that's new on the commission, you have seen a budget, but I'm going to allow the department heads to make their own requests, just like they've always been allowed to do, and I'll make notations on it as to whether I'm for it or against it, so you've got two opinions. I want you to hear all the information, and you make the decision as to what you want to fund. Then I'm asking the elected officials to have theirs turned in April 1st. With the budget committee would then start meeting, organizing, us getting you your budget books out. Then we would start looking at May the 11th for the school board's budget to be turned in. I talked to Jerry Boyd, and that's right after the school board meets the previous Thursday night to that. So far, everybody's agreed to these dates that I've talked to. Then, of course, we have to close out the existing budget, see what the revenues were, what the expenses were, what was left. I'm looking at the budget committee being finished middle to the end of July, so that we can publish it in the paper, and you would have your regularly scheduled meeting in August of the county commission and be able to vote on the budget then without having to call a special committee. Now, that's my goal. This is a recommendation from me as to the way we do this. Ultimately, this will be up to the budget committee once they form and start meeting as to whether they want to change that or not. But trying to be aggressive and get ahead of the game a little bit, so we're not rushing down towards the end to try to make some decisions, and this will be a little better plan. If you have questions about it, feel free to email me, or I'll answer them here tonight, or call me, or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Chairman, one thing, can I just go ahead and do this now?
Be fine.
I passed you out this got to do with budget, so I passed you out a sheet that's the revenue numbers for July 1st through December 31st. These are the revenue numbers. Remember, that's coming from the trustee's office, so they don't have the accounts receivables and so forth that your quarterly report's going to have in them. I took and I gave you past 2 years of what the revenues were. I gave you what we budgeted this year. I gave you what we've received so far this year through December 31st. I gave you the percentage compared to what we budgeted is what we received. I gave you what, for each one of the months, what that we received from through the trustee's office each month. And then the very last column is my estimates. What I'm going to start doing from this point forward each month is giving this to you either through a handout or through an email, and I'm going to start estimating what our revenues I think they're going to be at the end of the year. For right now, we got 6 months under our belt. It's a guesstimate, but as we go forth over the next 2 or 3 months, those estimates will get a lot closer. I estimated conservatively to start with, because this being my first year as county exec, I want to make sure I understand when these revenues come in and how they come in before I start giving you numbers that I don't want to give you anything that's not correct. The very last page on that report is calculations that I did to give you an idea of where we stand at December 31st on basically revenue only. This is not on any of the expenses. The first column is the budgeted number that you budgeted, or that the commission budgeted for the budget, the expenses. The second column is the revenue that was in the budget that was passed. The third column is the difference. And this is all the funds, not just county general. This is solid waste, debt service, every fund that we have. The fourth column is the estimated revenue that I'm estimating currently, my estimates, not what we've collected, but my estimates as to what I think that we're going to bring in, and then the difference in what's budgeted versus revenue. Because as you can see, we've already made up $2 million from where we started at. And I'm being conservative. The revenue numbers are looking really good, especially for sales tax and hotel motel tax. They're setting the woods on fire. don't, that sounds bad, don't set the woods on fire. They're coming in really good. We're setting records with the, with hotel motel tax, and sales tax is 8, 9, 10%. It fluctuates from month to month, but those are looking really good. My guesstimate is, if we keep going like we're going now, and this is purely a guesstimate, that we could be 2 million or less in revenue in the hole. It's all going to depend on how much we save in expenses. I mean, anything less than 2 million this year, with us spending almost $1 million in what I would call one-time items, fire truck, fire buildings, heating and air for community center, all that kind of stuff, you know, it'll be pretty easy, I think, to get close to a balanced budget next year if these things continue to come in good. No guarantees, just guesstimates, just numbers for y'all to start looking at. I'll keep presenting to you each month as we go forth, and then we'll have a better idea, especially by March. We'll have a pretty good idea as to where we stand.
Hang on, Tom. Commissioner Short?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a point of order. Randy's appointments are a ratification. We don't have to approve them, I don't believe. We do?
Yes.
Okay.
We're right on line with it. Just bear with us. Commissioner Honeycutt?
Thank you.
Randy, on this sports and recreation, is this including is the TSSAA figures in on the Blue Cross yet on that?
No, we have not received the numbers.
I know there hadn't seen nothing in the paper yet. That will be coming out, pretty quick, probably.
The last talk that I had was, the Sports Council is fixing to meet, I think, in, next week, I believe it is. So I think we'll probably be having some numbers come out after the Sports
I plan
Council
on
meeting.
volunteering for that next year. Thank you.
Commissioner Savage?
Quick question, Randy. I'm looking at the revenues here now. The debt service is the big one that's showing gains.
Yes, that's where all the sales tax and hotel motel tax, most of it goes, the largest portion of it goes.
Yeah, but within our budget that we deal with a lot, the big ticket, when you look there, if you guys look at the county general, it's still showing by his projections, it's still a 3.8 shortfall, which means we'll hit the fund balance for 3.8, because the sales tax where that is, the debt service stays there unless we choose to move it, which is probably a bad move because of the debt that we owe. So just make sure everybody understands that. When you're presenting this, I just want to make sure that, you know, the debt service is kind of, it needs to be where it's at because we owe so much money through bond issues and all that. Building schools, EMS and all this other stuff, the $160 plus $170 million that we owe, that's where that 15 million goes to each year. But I want to make sure everybody was clear on that, especially with 12 new commissioners. It can look a little rosier than it is until you consider that that's a tough thing to move away from, because it can put us in worse jeopardy down the road.
Well, and the good thing about the debt, the revenue that you put in debt service, that's all that revenue is paying the bonds. I'm talking about $2 million in excess of what it's taking to pay the bonds. So you actually, it's a good thing, because you can either let it build in debt service, and the next thing that you have to come up with, talking about a new school, roofs and all that kind of stuff, instead of having to borrow the money or issue a new bond, you actually would have the money in debt service to help do that. So it's a good thing. I understand what you're saying. We may get a little lopsided here at some point, that the Budget Committee Commission may want to look at the way the pennies of the property tax and everything are being put out into the funds, and that's something I want to look at in this budget, because when you've got one fund is that lopsided compared to the others, we may want to look at equalizing that out some, but that's just talk. We got a long ways to go until we get there, but I appreciate you bringing that up. He is correct.
So we're not broke?
Oh, no, we're not broke.
Okay. Ratification of County Executive Randy Porter's selection for the Pay Scale Committee as follows: Jim Martin, Ben Rogers, Danny Holmes, Coney Honeycutt. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recognize the official county road list and road inventory is presented by Road Supervisor Randy Jones.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recognize letters as per the Comptroller's Office dated November 26, 2014 and December 2018.
18? That's what it says. You
just need a motion to add him, correct?
Yeah.
I make a motion to add him to the minutes, that's so moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Short.
I know, it's surprising, huh? Randy, can you discuss a little bit of what's going on with solid waste and our reaction to that? We knew it was close, but there's some varying numbers in there. Can you kind of fill us in?
Yeah, when the budget was passed this last time, and Ben Rogers helped us do this with C-Test, he knows a little bit more, well, quite a bit more about it than I do, but they requested us to do a cash analysis of the solid waste fund. Ben, you want to,
Sure.
is it okay if he elaborates, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
What happened this past fiscal year, the budgets, the Comptroller's Office started paying attention to fund balances compared to expenditures. So they take what your projected ending fund balance was for fiscal year 14-15, compare that to what your total expenditures are, and if you don't have a certain percent fund balance of expenditures, then they're not satisfied. So they send a letter out to every county that did not meet their percentage requirements. I've worked with probably 7 counties in my area since October doing this cash flow analysis, and what they're asking for is us to look at previous year's cash flow, inflows of revenue, outflows of expenditures, do a projection from, I think we got it, November or December, and we did it in December, so we had actual numbers from July to November Debbie and I could use, and then we projected out for the rest of the year, and her and I and Randy talked, are there any things coming up that we don't normally incur as a county to put in this cash flow, and we addressed those, so it ended up being better than what the comptroller expected. They just do that, it's customary, like I said, 7 counties got this, in my area, probably 50 or more got it in the state, so it's just a new thing the comptroller's doing.
We cut fund balance in solid waste. The past commission cut fund balance short. It's getting close. I think we're going to be fine though in it.
So there's two reports here. One has the solid waste fund in at a little over 800,000 ending, but the state says that we don't have near that much. So are you saying that what their conclusion is of 138,000 is less than what you think our fund balance will be at the
Theirs
end?
was based strictly on the budget that y'all approved.
Right.
And that, of course, Putnam's had a history of budgeting conservatively and overestimating expenditures and underestimating revenues. So those numbers just came from your budget. My numbers and Debbie and I's numbers came from what's actually happened from July to November, and roughly of what happened the previous December to June. And like I said, we considered the purchase of equipment that's coming, I guess in solid waste that was budgeted. We considered all that stuff, so it should be fine. I mean, it's a guess, but it's not bragging on myself. It's an accurate guess. Right.
The 822,000 would be left. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Yeah, more accurate than what was
So Debbie, that's supposed to be December 18th, 2014. I was on a roll. We got a motion. Commissioner Rogers, you want to speak again? We got a motion in a second, correct? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements and statements. Mr. Parrish?
I'll be brief. Beginning March the 3rd, that's the first Tuesday in March the 3rd. We're going to have our first Citizen Sheriff Police Academy. Starts on Tuesday. It'll be from 6:30 to 9:30 every Tuesday beginning March the 3rd for the next 10 weeks.
The first academy, we got 30 slots. I'm offering the commission the first 24. So tonight, we have applications and waivers. If you're interested, please see me and get one. I need to know either by phone call or email by next Monday if you plan to attend and be part of our citizens group. Thank you.
Sheriff, what does that pay?
At this time, I'd like to ask each and every one of my fellow commissioners and everybody that's in this week, Commissioner Bowman and her husband will be traveling to Texas for some medical treatment for Mr. Bowman. And I ask each and every one of you to keep this family in your prayers and in your thoughts, and hope that everything turns out good for them. And if there's anything we can do, and we might fight up here a lot, but I think when it comes down to it, if you need anything, you can call any one of us. But have a safe trip, and God bless you. Any other announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Adjourned.